What's happening, everybody? Trey here, joined again by my dad, Sean, and today on Reactions to the Classics, we're going to be taking a look at Elvis's 1969 album, From Elvis in Memphis. We did his first 3 studio albums, and now we're going to fast forward about a decade and see what some later Elvis beholds, and man, this album was pretty fire.
It was very fire.
It was a great record, and if this is your first time joining us at Reactions to the Classics, we appreciate you stopping by here at the channel. We take a look back at some of the most classic albums of all time and do a detailed track-by-track review of them, and just like today, it's usually the first time we've heard the record. So that sounds like something interesting to you. Be sure to hit that big red subscribe button, and all that to say, let's just get into the quick facts.
Well, it was the 10th studio album for Elvis. It went to #1 in the UK. Number 13 in the US, number 2 on the country charts, which I thought was interesting. There were 31 songs recorded, 12 of them were chosen for the album. There were 3 singles. Kentucky Rain, Don't Cry Daddy were minor hits, but Trey's Suspicious Minds was Elvis's last #1 single, and perhaps his best came out of this session as well. It's number 190 in the Rolling Stones top 500 albums of all time, which I personally think is quite low considering where it is, and we'll set the table from where this album came from. When Elvis got out of the military in 1960, Colonel Tom Parker took his career in a different direction, said no more studio albums, all movies and soundtracks. So the first half of the decade, it worked out well. He had 3 #1 albums out of that, but now his success has started to wane when we come to this.
In 1968, Parker arranged a deal with NBC for a Christmas TV special with Elvis in front of a live audience. And originally, Presley was only going to sing Christmas carols, but the producer convinced Elvis to perform some of his other songs. The show and accompanying album success reestablished his popularity, and during this time, Elvis told the producer that he's never going to make another movie or song that he doesn't believe in, so it kind of reinvigorated him artistically as well.
Yeah, and Elvis was an RCA artist, and you had to record all your albums at RCA Studios, but his entourage convinced him to go to the American Sound, a new Memphis studio at the peak of hit-producing streak. The reason for going to the studio was for the soul sound of the house band, the Memphis Boys. That's why most of these songs sound a little country. The main cog of this is the producer, Chip's Moman. And Moman took Elvis away from his traditional pop audience and sound. And boy, did he ever, from the jump when you hear this album, you realize that. Yeah, and Moman was one of the innovators of the Stax Records sound, which is a totally different sound than you're used to with Elvis. It blends soul, country, gospel, and electric blues, and many of the arrangements lean heavily on the rhythm section with lesser contributions from strings, brass, and woodwinds. Many of the tracks have violas, cellos, and French horns. The arrangers intended to blend them for a distinctive sound. Trey, that's a whole lot of music speak, but once you understand all that and you listen to the album, you'll understand why it sounds so different, which takes us into the first track.
Wearin' That Loved On Look, and all the songs on this are either covers or written by other people,
of course,
as all of Elvis's records were. And from the jump, I could tell that this is going to be a different Elvis than I've ever heard before. Yeah. You have the sweet backing vocals by the girls in the background, as well as the bass is very prominent throughout the entire record, and especially in the chorus here, it was highlighted. So that just stood out to me, and I thought it was a great tune and a great way to set the theme of the record.
Oh yeah, the second I heard this, I'm like, we're 30 seconds in, I'm like, this is a different Elvis. A lot of people had told me, wait till you get to this album. I was not disappointed. The basis of the song, You're Wearing That Loved On Look, Elvis left. He had to be out of town a little while. The girl told him she was going to be faithful, but when he got back, she was wearing that loved on look. There were ashes in the ashtray. The guy down below from her told him that the party went on for 3 days. If she ever loved him, then Bonnie and Clyde, Love the Law. This song is tremendous and a great way to start. And Trey, that takes us right to the second track, Only the Strong Survive, which starts out with Elvis talking. He's telling us a little story that a girl kind of messed him over, but his mama gave him some advice and he decided to put it into a song. Only the Strong Survive comes out of it. His mama tells him, look, you got to kind of pick yourself up off the ground, get up off your knees. There's a good girl out there waiting for a good man like you, but you're never going to find her unless you just step up.
Yeah, that spoken section at the start, again, led another unique facet that you hadn't really ever heard from Elvis before going into the great instrumentation and his just beautiful voice. So I'm with you. Yet again, another fantastic tune. And then that takes us to I'll Hold You in My Heart Till I Can Hold You in My Arms. Here we had a couple studio little tricks, like the volume fluctuated occasionally. For me, this was a step down from the first two tracks just because it wasn't as varied musically. It was more kind of a by the numbers, I guess you would say, but it was still a fun tune.
Yeah, it's a 1947 song from Eddie Arnold. You can kind of tell that here. It has a different old-time sound, but the second half of the song, they bring the Memphis sound in. It punches it up some. It's one of my least favorites on this album, but I have very high standards with what this album produced, which the next song, Long Black Limousine, oh my goodness, this song
absolutely great.
From the start, where the bells toll. Long Black Limousine is a funeral procession. The guy leaves, tells his girl, we're assuming, I'll be back. I'll be coming back in a fancy car. She walks outside. She watches the funeral procession go by, which just adds like total sadness to the song. But he was right. He's being driven by a chauffeur in that long black limousine. He got into a wreck. He didn't see the curve coming after a party. Oh my goodness, Trey, this thing is fire.
Yet again, those female backing vocals just added a great touch with the sharp drums and the really in-your-face bass. And I'm with you. This was probably a top 3 song on this record for me, which is a pretty high bar. And just the imagery that he evoked, he just grips you with that story through his voice and the emotion. So great tune. And then that leads us to track number 5.
It Keeps On A-HURTIN, which I think from the song, from the lyrics, she probably divorced him or she was living with him, but in 1969 he probably wasn't going to write about that, so she probably divorced him. He looks at the pillow where she laid her head and he just starts crying. When he sees her around town, he starts crying. So more a traditional song as well.
Yeah, it had a music hall style piano, and the arrangement reminded me of some of his earlier work that we had heard, where it was kind of just his voice being the most prominent thing. But even so, it was a more modernized version of that, and I dug it. Again, we see a different type of style, and we're only 5 tracks in, so good stuff there. Then we start to close at the A side with I'm Movin' On. This has another country theme to it, and you start to think that it's just going to be another kind of by the numbers country song, and then midway through, that Memphis sound just comes pounding in. I like the clash of musical styles and arrangements here, and another fun tune.
Differs from his style and the rest of the album and the other ones we'd heard, where usually he's the one kind of being messed over by the girl, but on this one he's moving on. She's going to regret it one day. He doesn't have time for her. Great strong bass line on this song. That's going to take us to the B side.
Yeah, Power of My Love. This has a harmonica at the start, so yet again we get another instrument in there, and here there's a lot of sexual innuendos in here, and you can tell that through the conveying of Elvis's voice. He has a flirtatious kind of a tone throughout the lines he's delivering, so I think that was a nice touch and a great way to start off this side.
Yeah, probably a little risque for 1969. I don't know, still 2 years before I was born, but in it he's just basically telling her, you can't resist me, this is going to happen. Definitely a strong way to start. And then we're going to go to Gentle on My Mind, which this song has been covered by over 300 artists, which is crazy. And I had never heard it. It actually won 4 Grammys in 1968, not for Elvis's version, but Glenn Campbell has the most famous version. Said over 5 million radio plays. I have no idea how they track these things for Glenn, and he used it as a theme song to his TV series back in the late 60s and early 70s. A very good vocal performance on this and a wonderful story.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, the story just grips you in, and I think that's a good point to make, that they chose good covers to do. And
they did. You know, he didn't write any of them, as you mentioned, Trey, but they picked absolute awesome songwriting.
Yeah, exactly. And all the themes kind of meld together, even though they're coming from 12 different songwriters.
It's amazing.
So again, this was a very good track. And then we move on to After Loving You. Here, Elvis actually plays the guitar on the intro and throughout the songs. For me, this one was towards the bottom. I thought it was a bit safe compared to maybe some of the other tracks on here, yet even his safe or lower tier songs on this album are still good.
Yeah, I agree 100% on everything you said. Basically, he's telling her, you were so great. Now, after loving you, I'm going to compare everybody to you, and no one else is going to measure up. And that takes us into true love travels on a gravel road. She is stuck with him through everything, and love endures. He's got a great line in this song. Love is a stranger, and hearts are in danger on smooth streets paved with gold. Oh, true love travels on a gravel road. He's telling her, look, things have been rough. You stuck with me through it all. These people who have everything great, they have money and they never have any issues. They don't really know where their love is, but our love has been tested and you're still with me. This is one of my favorites on here just because the songwriting on it is tremendous.
Oh, yeah. And man, that chorus just has so much soul to it. Whew. It really hits you deep down. For that reason, it is one of my favorites.
That moves us to Any Day Now. Kind of a sad song when you listen to the lyrics, but great musically. Basically, he's begging her to stay. Any day now, Trey, she's going to find someone better, and when she does, she'll be out the door.
Yeah, and midway through, the arrangement goes down. It's really just the bass and Elvis's voice, so it really draws you in as the listener, and then boom, we kick back up into that full Memphis-style sound. So again, another song that was interesting and that you could really just kind of float on through as the seconds tick by in the track.
And one of the most powerful vocal performances when that does happen midway through the song. And that takes us to the only single release from the album, went to number 3 in the U.S., In the Ghetto. And wow.
Oh, man, I never heard this track.
I actually had never heard this track either, if you guys can believe that. And man, what a piece of songwriting, what a delivery by Elvis. He was actually nervous to release this song because of the social climate in 1969. It starts out with a baby being born in the ghetto. The mama doesn't know what to do because she already has hungry mouths to feed. He's outside playing. He ends up growing up. As he grows up, he steals a car. He steals a gun. He ends up laying face down in the ghetto. We're all kind of culpable. Elvis says we kind of turned a blind eye to it. And we still do that today, Trey. We want to blame people who are down on their luck socioeconomically, who grow up in a difficult environment. Sometimes that's their fault. Sometimes it's not, and just a product of what they grow up in. It comes full circle at the very end, and another baby is born in the ghetto and probably going to have the same fate.
Yeah, it just really makes you think about the institutionalization of the poverty and just how, as you mentioned, we're here 50 years later, and a lot of that you still see in the inner cities just around America. And wow, just the vocal performance, the emotion, the passion, and the message behind the song.
The backing vocalist, just all of it.
It all just fit together in really a perfect way, which I don't throw that word around a lot, but this is now my favorite Elvis track, I think. That or Suspicious Minds.
Me too, I'm in the same.
What a perfect way to just end out this fantastic album, and that'll take us to our favorite tracks. For me, it'll have to be In the Ghetto, it'll have to be a Long Black Limousine.
3 of those, and for me also Only the Strong Survive, and that brings us to our overall grade. Trey, the first 3 albums that we reviewed, Elvis Presley, and Elvis Is Back, we gave decent grades to. Part of it was historical reasoning because there was nothing like that exists, especially on his first 2 albums. This album was an Elvis I've never heard, right? I was familiar with his hits, but I never heard anything like this. From the second I listened to it 3 times straight. I loved half the songs initially. The other half I was so. Then I read the lyrics, understood what the songs were about. For me, this thing is a 9.5, and I do not give out those grades lightly. I absolutely love this. It is peak Elvis at his peak powers.
I love it, man. You are a tough grader, so
I'm a tough grader. Some of you know that out there that left me comments on other ones.
You know it's good. Yeah, I'm gonna echo you, man. This is I don't see Elvis getting any higher than this.
No, it just gets better with every listen too.
It's fantastic. I love that Memphis style sound that I really hadn't heard too much before. That the beautiful blend of different genres, rock, soul, gospel, country, as we mentioned at the start. So I really dug this one. I'm going to be at an 8.75 on it. It'll definitely have to be in the record collection next time we hit up a show or something. Have to find that. So really enjoyed that, and we appreciate y'all watching. Let us know what you think of From Elvis in Memphis down in the comments below. We'll have more Elvis in the future as well. And if you enjoyed this, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. We upload multiple times a week, and Dad appreciate all the research.
That was a lot of fun.
And until next time, y'all, happy listening. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you.